everyone, I'm Mili and I'm very excited to be with you here today. I'm gonna bring you a technique that is quick and I love it. If you like working smarter, not harder, then I think you're gonna love this tutorial because I'm turning this model completely over with just a few pieces of freehand painted balayage. Have a look with me how to do it. This is a freehand technique. That means no foils, it's all about painting. So in order to paint and make sure you have the right kind of texture and placement, I need to choose my correct lightening medium. In this case, I'm going to use the BLONDME Clay Lightener. The reason why I love this product is because what I can do with it is get control. I can paint and make sure that what I paint stays where I painted. In order to make the most out of this lift, but also keep it soft, I'm going to go in with BLONDME 30 Vol. Because the reason for that is I want a soft lift. I want her to feel natural, but also impactful. So when it comes to mixing your clay lightener and your developer, which I have actually right here, I would suggest as a little tip to mix it with a comb instead of your brush. This will guarantee that perfect frosting consistency that you need to paint it onto the hair. So I got my gloves on and I'm almost ready to go, but I wanted to show you what that consistency looks like in the bowl so you get a better idea what we're looking for. It is a cake frosting-like consistency, and that is a result of mixing BLONDME Clay Lightener with BLONDME 30 Volume 1 to 1.5. So now let's talk a little bit about tools. Here's a tool that I really love for balayage when it's freehand, and that is a board. What I love about a board is that it will give me a smooth surface. Now when I'm painting, I need some resistance to paint and make sure I deposit the product correctly. So in order to do that, something like this will allow a smooth surface from my beginning to the end of my painting. So I like to do this, which I like to call a little ponytail perimeter. And I just went ahead and sectioned more or less around her ear into her nape. And I'm gonna do the same on the other side. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna paint actually the inner side of the hair. And it's gonna be a super soft painting that I'm just gonna lay back down. And this over here, I'm not gonna paint, and it's going to act as my negative space into my next section. All right, so I'm going to start with my painting, and I wanna show you just how thick that consistency is. It's not coming off my brush, therefore it won't come off her hair. That means that what I'm painting is what sticks, and I can get to see my pattern as I go along. So I'm going to use about this much, but you will see I will not deposit it all the way through. I'm actually going to be very soft about it. I just want to create a little bit of brightness around this face. I'm going to be very, very precious about the amount of product that I take. Most of the deposit of the product will happen from the middle towards the end, and then the least product will come the closest to her roots. So I'm gonna start painting, and you can see here some hair is falling down. I'm just gonna try to keep my tension always throughout. So if that means I need to grab the hair from a little further below, I will. And as I move my way up, it'll start to fall. That's okay. So one tip for you is that you will notice I deposited most of my product here in the middle towards the ends. And as I'm working my way into the root area, I'm actually feathering with my brush. And I'm not using my brush horizontally, I'm actually using my brush vertically. This helps me diffuse all the little lines and create a super blended look for Morena. So remember, the reason why I'm picking the section up is because I want to paint inwards so that that ponytail is looking illuminated. And that means that when I put the hair back down, there will be no paint on the other side of the section. This is pretty much my section finished. As you can see, that frosting-like consistency really helped me because you can see it gets smoother as I get to the ends of the hair, and I can really diffuse that color. It might look a bit messy, but don't worry, it's the soft effect what you're gonna get. And now I will drop it and you will see there's not much paint either at all on the other side. That means I didn't paint this section. And as I said before, I will use this section as a negative space for my next painting. Now I'm going to proceed to do the same on the back and around her hair, and I'll come back to show you what that looks like, and we'll move on with the next sections. All right guys, so I finished Morena's ponytail perimeter, and now I'm going to start my actual heavy painting, and this is where my board comes in. What I'd love to do first of all is take a chunkier section that you would normally do when you're doing a highlight technique or when you're doing a foil placement. The reason for that is that we want to have a big section for painting. This is my section and I'm going to start painting and I'm going to take you through the process. There's a few things that you need to take into account when you're doing this kind of technique, and we're going to talk about them as I go along. So a really important thing to start with is tension. You should always keep tension with your hand on the piece. If you loosen up the piece, you're going to loosen up your pattern of painting, and it's really important to keep that line perfectly balanced and straight. And for that, you can, for example, pinch the hair and then move the pinching down as you start painting. All right, so I brought my board in, and at this point, I have a few elements in my hand. I'm trying to bring tension by pinching the hair, as I said before. I'm also gonna get my board in here, and I'm gonna have my brush. And if you're wondering, how do you handle all of this together? The answer for you is muscle memory. It takes a while, but when you get the hang of it, you're going to do this completely smooth sailing. All right, so I'm gonna show you now how I paint. I'm gonna pick up the product, and this time, instead of going directly into the hair, I'm going to use the side of my board to deposit the product. That is easy access for me. That way, whenever I need to pick up more, I don't need to return to the bowl. I can return to my board and keep my brush a little bit cleaner than if I were to dip it into my bowl. So let's start with the painting. I'm going to take some product off my board and I'm going to start painting first from my pinching section in the middle, and I'm going to try and have control as I work my way down. I'll show you now. What I will do is I'll pick up product, twist my brush from this position to this position, and deposit product. So if you notice, as I work my way downwards, I'm going to continue only depositing product on the top of the hair, and I'm going to be very precious and smooth about it. This is where the board comes in. I'm going to flip my hair into the board, make sure not to touch the lightener next to it, and pinch it at the end so that I can continue painting as I go down. So I'm gonna pick up more product and I'm going to start painting all my way down the board. If you notice this hair right here and you're wondering why I didn't paint that, that's because that's hair from the back that is slanted forwards. That's okay. I can just continue painting knowing that my surface is on this side. So let's talk a little bit about sectioning. I've already showed you how to paint, but how many sections are a good amount? Well, you should always check the amount of hair on your model's hair and then decide based on that on diagonal sections. As you can see, my sections are about 1 centimeter wide. So that means with that, I can ensure to see how many sections will I get. I started with one, which we talked about, which was the perimeter ponytail. Then we moved on to the next one, and now I have one more before I reach the crown of her hair. When I reach the crown of her hair, I will not be painting that section right now. I'm gonna save it for later because it's going to marry the one on the other side to create just one section at the top. That way, when the hair falls and opens, she's gonna get a shimmer throughout the entire crown of her hair. If I were to do it in a split motion, you would get a little piece of darkness here, and that doesn't look so good. We really wanna make her look amazing. So, 3 sections now. I'm going into my second one, and then the last one I'm saving for later. While we're at it, let's quickly talk about saturation. Look at this piece for me for 1 second. Do we think that's saturated enough? I don't think so. You really need to make sure you do not see any hair whatsoever. We want to see the frosting on the cake. We do not want to see the hair. It feels harsh, but I promise you the results are still going to be very soft because of the way the clay lightener works. So I'm just gonna keep painting, and then I'm gonna show you what to create in this area to blend the hair out. So before I move over to my ends of the hair, I'm just gonna go ahead and feather this out to create a smooth blend. The way I'm gonna do that is, in this occasion, I'm going to not take any more product in my brush. I'm going to work with whatever I have, less is more. And I'm going to go in and feather upwards into the root area. And notice that this is a very soft blend, and I'm not being as heavy about it as I am in the middle of her lengths or the ends of her hair. I just finished my last section in the back in Morena's hair, so I want to avoid creating any darkness in that top section. This is why I married those 2 sections. Otherwise, I would have probably gotten a little inverted teardrop of darkness here. And to avoid that and create shimmer throughout all the way to the ends, I like to put those sections together and treat it all as one. So I'm gonna take you through the front section, but let's do a little math exercise first. We said it was a quick balayage, right? So that means fast, fast, fast. Let's count how many pieces have I painted so far. That is 2 on each side at the back, 1 big piece at the top section, plus the perimeter, which I count as 1 piece. So far we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces. And now we're gonna do 3 on each side. So that means 12 pieces to create a super impactful look. And that's really cool if you ask me. So the way I'm going to approach these sections is going to be a little bit in a rounded sort of diagonal and bring the hair back a little bit. That will allow me to go really in with my painting at the top and create sort of like a almost fake highlight effect with a little bit of shimmer as you get to the top. I'll show you in a second what that looks like. Let's get started. So my first section will be the chunkiest section, and as I move closer to her hairline, they will be a little less wide. But I'm just going to repeat the same process as I did in the back, heavy surface painting, blending as I get to the root, and really heavy as I get to the ends. And I'm going to use my board again to ensure that I have the right resistance to paint smoothly from top to bottom. So in this section, I'm going to change things up a little bit as I get to the top section of her hair or the root area of her hair. And instead of going in a straight line, I'm going to also curve a little bit my painting. So that way she gets dimension. In this case, the closer I get to her roots, the less product I want on my brush to ensure a seamless blend. I hope by now you can see the tiny little roundness that I've created. I'm going to do the same on all of my sections. I'm going to show you the last one of the face framing so you get an idea how to approach that. For now, I'm just gonna finish this section. This is my last section, and as you can see, because she has this tiny bits of hair that are a little bit shorter around her face frame, I actually need to pinch a little bit higher than I normally would. But of course, because I'm working with clay lightener, once I paint, it's just gonna kind of stay into place and do the work for me. So this section is actually a little bit smaller than my other sections, but I am anyways going to treat it the same way I did the other ones, with a heavy painting in the middle to the ends and a softer, more diffuse painting as I work my way up. All right, I'm going to finish off the other side and I will come back to show you how I would tone this hair. And I'm back with Morena, and I let her process for a solid 35 minutes, then we rinsed her hair off. Now she's ready for toning, but let me tell you a little bit about the care, because that's equally important into making your canvas ready for your toning. And for that, we used the new BLONDME Bond Repair Nourishing Shampoo, and we followed that with the new BLONDME Bond Repair Nourishing Conditioner. Let's talk about the toning now. We're mixing, first of all, one of our BLONDME deep toning toners in the shade Milk Chocolate. And we're gonna mix that with one of our toners from BLONDME in the shade Ice. So this is going to be a 1-to-1 ratio for the Ice and the Milk Chocolate combined. And of course, when we're toning, we're definitely always going to use a 2% or 7 volume. Of course, also from BLONDME. So obviously for the toning, you can choose how you would like to go about it, but since the formulas are quite fluid, a bottle application is actually pretty fast and pretty perfect for this look. So we've been through the formula already, now it's really time to get down and tone. I have divided Morena into 4 quadrants just for ease, and as you know, I'm going to be using a bottle application, and I feel like we're totally on a theme here because it's cake frosting, frosted chocolate, and things are about to get super yummy with this bottle. Have a look. All right guys, I hope you enjoyed that juicy moment because I loved it. This is the iced chocolate we all want to see. So I need to let it process for 20 minutes and I'll bring her back to show you the final result. And hopefully it is. I'm back and Morena is ready, and I actually love the result because it's exactly what I wanted. But I want to be transparent with you. When we rinsed our toner, it wasn't quite where I wanted it to be because I wanted a little bit more depth to it. I wanted a little bit of that chocolate to come a little bit more into play. So I went back for a second toning. Sadly, we don't have footage, but I do want to show you the formula, and that was BLONDME Deep Toning in Nougat. And we mixed that with BLONDME 2% 7 volume developer, and we left that in for about 10 minutes, and I watched it as I went along. And finally, when that was rinsed, it was exactly what I wanted, which is what you get right here. That perfect iced chocolate that we talked about. I hope you got some really good tips out of this video, also from the application and the toner as well. Remember, we did a freehand technique. We went all over her with about 12 pieces. We just did a little surface painting that got heavier on the ends, softer as we went up, and of course, that ponytail section, which is right below. This is our final result. I hope Morena loves it.
Yes.
I love it too. If you want to see a little bit more about the products that we used today, learn a little bit more in depth, you can always check our e-academy for all extra information. It is a free online education resource that you shouldn't miss. And of course, follow us in our YouTube channel. I'm going to be back with some other tutorials, and we have a lovely selection of videos for you. Click the link below and subscribe, and check out all the information in the description box as well, and we'll see you on the next one.